Was He Seen, people? This is Matthew, and this is another episode of Was He Seen. And today I'll be talking about the latest entry in the Star Wars cinematic universe. Of course, I'm talking about Gareth Edwards' long-awaited film, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Now, for those who don't know, this movie pretty much is set years after the events of Episode 3 and just a little bit before the events of Episode 4, A New Hope. It centers on a group of rebels who come across these plans for the Death Star, which, if you remember, is the death weapon used by the Empire pretty much to destroy planets. So this group of rebels are given the task to go into the Death Star and destroy it, and it's pretty much about their journey to that destination. This movie is directed by Gareth Edwards, who gave us Godzilla a couple of years ago, which for the most part was very good, but it suffered from, poor pacing and also with the lack of character development. There wasn't really anybody in the show apart from Godzilla that I cared about. And unfortunately with this movie here, it's kind of the same thing. What I mean is that yes, we have characters that we like. So there's Felicity Jones's character, we have Donnie Yen, who steals the show by the way, we have Forrest Whitaker, we have Mads Mikkelsen, we have all these characters as well too. And when they're on screen, they do what they have to do, they're serviceable. And from an acting perspective, it's pretty decent, but really it's the characters and, just the lack of characterization that they got that really kind of bummed me a bit about this movie. I really wanted to root for these characters, I really wanted to care. And yeah, you could argue that you kind of know where the story is going to end simply because of how episode 4 begins. But still, even if you know how this movie here is going to end, you still want to care about these characters, still want to care about their journey, you still want to care about their struggles, and you kind of do, but just not as much as all that. We do see some familiar faces in this as well too. I'm not going to say who, but just the way how this was done, from a visual perspective, this was well done. Like, just the visuals that went into bringing these characters who, if you look at them now, they are pretty much old, but because this is pretty much before the events of episode 4, we had to get them looking young. And just the way how they did it from a technological perspective was amazing. And on the subject of being a Star Wars story, this movie kind of goes out of its way to try and be its own thing while staying true to the source material. Also to the visual aesthetic of it, I mean, this movie is gorgeous. From opening frame to end, this is a gorgeous looking movie. I love the cinematography in this. I love the set design and just the scope of the movie. Even though these characters are small and even though their efforts in this movie might go unnoticed in the grand scheme of things, it's really about what they did in terms of stopping this big, gigantic menace. But apart from all that though, I really love the way how this movie tries to be its own thing. So this is not an adventure movie per se like how Force Awakens was. This is more of a gritty war movie. This is grungy, it's dirty, it's grimy. Not too grimy of course, because we have kids in the audience. But there are moments which really do feel like you are watching a war movie. You really do get a sense of, yes, people die and people can die in this situation. But other than that though, I was thoroughly impressed by this movie. I kind of enjoyed it a little bit more than Force Awakens, to be honest, simply because this movie was trying to be its own thing and not trying to piggyback on the nostalgia of the original films basically. This one was trying to tell its own story, and even though you kind of know where it's going to lead up to, it was still fresh, it was still entertaining, it was still vibrant to see. Just wish that we could have gotten a little bit more characterization, a little bit more character moments, and especially the pacing of the story could have been a little bit better. But for what it's worth, this was still a very decent movie, a very solid movie. So overall, I would give this movie a light 4 out of 5 stars. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should definitely check it out. And I know if you are like a die-hard, hardcore Star Wars fan, you are definitely going to watch episode 4 as soon as you watch Rogue One. But I'm kind of worried as to how non-Star Wars fans are going to treat this. I'm not sure if they're going to enjoy it as much as Force Awakens, simply because Force Awakens had more of the fun and the adventure that people loved from, episode 4 and episode 6. But this one really felt like episode 5. So in terms of like the Disney resurgence of Star Wars, you could safely say that Rogue One is the Empire Strikes Back of this resurgence. But for what it's worth, it's not the best Star Wars movie I've ever seen, but it is one of the most ambitious that I have seen in years. So yeah, I highly recommend that you do check it out. And you know, if you do, feel free to let me know what you thought about it. Did you like the film? Did you hate the film? Did you think it was a step up from Force Awakens, or did you still prefer Force Awakens? Do you think that we will get more war-themed Star Wars movies, or we're just gonna get more adventurous Star Wars movies? Which is fine, but you know, would love to see something a little different every once in a while in this cinematic universe. So yeah, that was pretty much about it. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not as much as I wanted to, but it was still worth my time and worth my money. And I strongly recommend, guys, that you do see it on big screen. It is worth seeing on big screen. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So once again, this is Matthew. And before I go, I have to wish you guys Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe, don't drink and drive. And like a wise man once told me, what's this scene?